Do a little clap. And we have Frank Florian here. So, Cheryl, I always get everyone to spell their first and last name before we get into the but you're gonna have a conversation with Cheryl.
Right.
I'm out of the picture.
Yep.
Okay, guys, ready?
So Frank, you're supposed to spell your first and last name.
Name is Frank Florian, F-R-A-N-K, F-L-O-R-I-A-N. I'm the senior manager at the TELUS World of Science Edmonton in the Planetarium and Space Sciences.
Frank, how long have you been with the TELUS World of Science?
Well, I started at the TELUS World of Science Edmonton when it was still called the Edmonton Space Sciences Center, and that was back in 1986 when I started, 2 years after the facility opened to the public. And I was there on opening day. Believe it or not, I couldn't get in to see any of the shows or anything because it was just jam-packed with people. Everything was sold out in months in advance. I didn't know that. But astronomy's always been a fascination for me, and being able to work at a facility like what is now the TELUS World of Science Edmonton is actually, it's always a pleasure.
Well, is that what your background is in terms of your education?
My background is in astrophysics. I went through the University of Alberta and took astrophysics for 4 years. Some of my professors I got to know quite well, like Dr. Douglas Hube, well-known local professional astronomer. Did work with double stars and calculating orbits and things like that. So he created a lot of interest in that topic to me when I took his classes at the University of Alberta. After I finished my undergrad degree, I decided, I really want to learn more about my physics, the background, all the physics courses I took. And I thought, in 4 years, you think you know everything, you don't. And I thought, in order to really know it well, what I should do is maybe go into education. So I took a career change a little bit to go into education, got my after degree, Bachelor of Ed, in majoring in physical sciences, minoring in mathematics. And that got me into the schools a bit, talking to kids and learning how to actually present certain topics to younger individuals, and even adults for that matter. So the education really was very important in helping me explain some of those physical laws of nature that I learned in physics class. And until you actually teach it, and then you have to take a look at how people interpret what you're saying or try to make them understand it a different way, it helps you also understand the physics better that way.
So you've been involved with the Jasper Dark Sky Festival for how many years now? I think it started in 2011.
It's been a fair number of years, yeah, around 2011, 2010. It actually all started when we, with the RESC, created the Beaver Hills Dark Sky Preserve just by the Elk Island region east of Edmonton. We were called out to create that as a designated dark sky preserve. And some people from the national parks were actually out there saying, well, we'd like to take this a little further. Let's do it at Jasper too. Let's make Jasper a dark sky preserve as well. So after that initial meeting, we came out here, not initially to create not initially to be involved with the dark sky event like we have right now, but to actually celebrate David Thompson's 200th anniversary, I think it was, for plotting the course through the mountains here, the Rocky Mountains and that. So we came out here for that, and then and that was in February, kind of cool February, but we were out here with telescopes in February. And then later on in October, they held their first dark sky event here in Jasper, and had the whole Jasper National Park designated a dark sky preserve.
So what exactly is a dark sky preserve?
Well, Dark Sky Preserve is a special place. It's a place where we take a look at what we're doing with lighting. So a town site like Jasper, you want to create more energy efficient lighting. You want to basically reduce the amount of light going up into the atmosphere. You want to just get it down to where the people are, where you need it, but you want to preserve the night sky. And that's the whole idea about a Dark Sky Preserve, is trying to maintain that historical look at what the night sky has to offer. And that's by introducing into town sites like Jasper and other places more energy efficient lighting that is shrouded, so you get full cutoff lighting, so you're not putting light up into the atmosphere in the air, so the astronauts up there can see it. You want it down on the Earth. There's a lot of places around the world, one being Flagstaff, Arizona, where they are very very good at controlling their light levels, so that basically if you are in Flagstaff, Arizona, and you're looking up in Flagstaff, Arizona, you can see the stars. They are there, and they're not just dim things. They're quite bright because they are, again, using energy efficient lighting and using it properly, and where you don't need it, they don't have lights. So it really cuts down on what we call light pollution. So dark sky preserves are a way of kind of keeping the night sky alive, vibrant, rather than, you know, people living in New York City or Edmonton or Calgary, big cities across North America. You look up, you might see a couple of little dots. I think from New York City, it's even hard seeing the full moon just because of the sheer volume of light pollution. But again, it's just a place to preserve the night sky.
Well, you mentioned that a lot of this was around, the beginnings were around celebrating. Let me start that again. So you mentioned David Thompson, the explorer, and when you think about the sky, when he came here, pristine land, pristine atmosphere, and what kids are seeing today. What's the difference?
There's a big difference about what kids today are seeing and what David Thompson and other explorers saw here in the Rocky Mountains when they were exploring this region. They were able to see, again, a pristine night sky, no light pollution. When the moon wasn't up there, the Milky Way was bright enough to cast shadows. But now we've lost all that. Kids growing up today aren't even aware of what's actually out there. When they get out into a rural location where there's minimalistic lighting, they start to see more and more, and they start to say, what's all that stuff up there? And they learn a little bit about astronomy in classes in school, but they just think that's in the books and things like that. They don't know that they can just go outside their backyard and look up, and it's all there for them to explore. And that's because we've got all this light pollution that's going to destroying that ability for us to actually look up and see all these stars. So kids today very different growing up over the kids of the past when we didn't have all our incandescent lighting and lighting up every street corner as we do now.
Jasper National Park, it's in Alberta, it's in Canada. It's one of the two first preserves. How do we sit in terms of the rest of the world moving in this direction of establishing preserves and moving ahead with solutions or to light pollution?
Well, I think it's a bit like climate change in a way. People, I think, understand that there is stuff going on with climate change. And with lighting too, the lighting that we're doing, they see that we're maybe putting too much light up, but we still go about doing the same old things. I think when we start looking at it realistically, and again having the RESC and other interested parties take a look at what we're doing and say, hey, we got to do something about it, and do it little by little, starting off in national parks or in other provincial parks, trying to get people to understand that, if we kind of do things a little bit differently, we can still get the light where we need it, but we can also, keep the night sky up there for people to enjoy. We can see the stars, we can see the planets without any problems.
What keeps you involved in this?
The love of astronomy, the love of finding things out, the love of peering out into space and seeing things for the very first time that you hear about, but you want to see it with your own eyes. You just don't want to read about it. And of course, space is pretty big, and with that space being as big as it is, and all those distant suns and galaxies, what gets me looking up a lot is just wondering, is there other life out there as well? Because all this stuff couldn't be here just for all the life on our one little blue world, the Earth. There's probably life everywhere out there. But again, we don't have any proof yet for that, but I'm sure at some time in the future we will. So that gets me looking up. It's the wonder, I think, of it all, just how vast the universe is and just how small and insignificant, me or anyone on this earth really is compared to the extravagance of the entire universe.
You mentioned life beyond our planet, and I see that on your program you have two people who are here presenting who are actually known for their investigations of UFOs.
Yeah. Well,
How'd you get them here?
Well, that was actually Tourism Jasper that basically worked with the event planners to get their guest speakers in. A long time ago when we first started the Jasper Sky Festival, it was the RESC members and myself representing the Telescope of Science Edmonton that came out and started doing programming, and that led to them saying, well, let's see if we can get some of these bigger name speakers, these people that people see on TV or read about in books, and see if they can come out and get people excited about learning the night sky. So this year they've brought Seth Shostak out as well as Nick Pope. Both these individuals basically, yes, have some kind of fascination with not so much UFOs. One person in particular may be a little bit more on UFOs, but the other person is more about just that wonder of, is there other life, intelligent life, somewhere else out in the universe? So Seth, of course, is a SETI person in search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So he looks after radio telescopes with his team and looking for signals from some civilizations somewhere out there. And Nick Pope, of course, is a person that used to work for the UK Defence Ministry, and he was their so-called Mulder, the person that would actually get any of the so-called X-Files or things that went bump in the night or something like that, including the UFO stuff. And that made him want to look more into it. So, you know, there are things that people have seen in the nighttime sky. I get calls at the Science Center all the time on things that people see in the sky. Most can be explained, you know, away irrationally, but there have been a few over the years that I've been at the Science Center that kind of aren't quite answerable with what people, you know, from what the eyewitness reports told me. So that doesn't mean that they're little green men or something like that. That just means that maybe there's something more to it and we should be looking into it. And maybe it is some other form of intelligent life. We can't rule that out. And again, until Seth comes to me and says, yes, we got a radio signal, very strong. It's got a particular pattern. It's repeating, you know. That tells you that there's something a little bit more going on.
I think we've done most of it, but is there anything that you think you want to say that I missed asking you about, or?
I think in this day and age with our light pollution in cities, people are losing out on really experiencing what the night sky has to offer. Again, I talk to so many kids that come to our facility that when they come into our planetarium, they look up at our